Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. All right, everybody, another week, another edition of Hidden Tracks. Today I have Hunter Weeks of the amazing hardcore band Love is Red. Joining me this week, met Hunter a couple weeks ago at Furnace Fest, which was fucking amazing. And that's where it leads me to today. So first off, Hunter, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm very excited. We started a little conversation while we were in Alabama, and I'm excited to continue the conversation. I apologize for genre labeling you, your band. And
That's
so
okay.
I'm going to give you the opportunity right now that if you had to fall into a genre, what would you consider the genre of the band to be?
We're definitely a hardcore band. So if you're going to put a genre on it, we're a hardcore band. We're a fast melodic hardcore band. So we're just fast, heavy, straightforward, but we're definitely a hardcore band. That's what we are.
Good. See, I hate having to, apologize for genre labeling at times. I mean, because that's the way of the world now. There's so many genres with subgenres
forever, for days. Yeah.
For weeks. Somebody told me, like, gave me 5 things of a genre they are. I'm like, I didn't even know those existed. So yeah. Sure, we're going to go with that. But let me get the story a little bit about Love is Red, because you went away for a little while. You guys did your own thing, and then you came back with a extremely awesome fucking EP this summer. And like, it was one of those things where, when you're not expecting something and all of a sudden something pops up and you're like, wait, what the fuck's going on right now?
Yeah.
And here it was.
Like it.
So why don't you give me a little backstory about, your little break in between to coming back to this, to dropping a fucking amazing EP?
Yeah. So we put out a full-length record, The Hardest Fight, on Stillborn Records, which was Jamie Josta from Hatebreed's record back in the early 2000s. It was his record label. So him and Jay Reason, shout out Jamie and Jay, they put out The Hardest Fight back in 2004. Before that, Love is Red had put out a demo, another EP and a split, and did an LP on, God, what was the name of that record label? That was with Rob, the original singer. But that was like early 2000s. So we did the Hardest Fight. That was what we toured the most on. That was kind of what, we played the majority of at Furnace Fest. We put that out in 2004. We broke up around 2006. Basically, we just toured our asses off and got to the point where we just couldn't be around each other because we were in a band for so many years together, and young and broke and not making any money and just, wanting to punch each other over, what kind of spaghetti we were making that night. Right. So
not many people come out of that van unscathed. So.
Yeah. So we ended up breaking up after a pretty epic tour. We did a tour of Hatebreed and Agnostic Front, and that was it was like a big tour, and we were getting to that point. We were playing these with bigger bands and venues that had barricades, and we weren't a professional band by any means, and we actually probably sounded way worse on a bigger stage with bigger sound, you know what I mean? So it just was got to a breaking point. We broke up. We played a show in 2010 in Nashville that was kind of a reunion last show. We never really even played like a legit last show. We played with Strike Anywhere in like 2006 and then broke up shortly after that. And that was like a random last show in Atlanta, Georgia. But we played in 2010, had a great show in Nashville. We got asked to do Furnace Fest. Obviously, that was supposed to be summer of 20. That didn't happen because of COVID. It got pushed back. Obviously, the whole world shut down. Like a lot of people, we were just stuck at home. And so Roger, our guitar player, who plays in Trial and plays in a few other bands out in Seattle, he basically wrote an EP, went into the studio with the drummer out there that plays in a couple of his other bands, recorded guitars and drums and the basic flow of the EP, and then sent it out to everybody. And then we just worked on it in our own different places. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We recorded bass down in Florence, Alabama, bass and vocals in Richmond, here in Ann Arbor. So we just did it all over. We got it mastered and put it out, and it was really just because of COVID, because Furnace Fest got pushed back because we had this time on our hands and we wanted to do something with it. And like a lot of bands, we've been just looking forward to Furnace Fest for the last 2 years now or whatever. It's just kept getting pushed back and all that. So we thought it would be rad just to do a new EP, put some new music out, play a show. We played a show in Nashville. We did Furnace Fest, and we just thought it would be fun and be awesome. And we wanted the EP to be fast and heavy and pissed off and angry and all the things that we wanted our band to be back in the day, and we think it was. And so yeah, it was really fucking cool. We're stoked on it.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, you nailed it. And I had mentioned to you when we were in Alabama, I said, my wife, who's not very much into the hardcore scene, and she supports me. She's a very supportive woman. I love her to death for going to
shout out non-hardcore wives supporting their hardcore husbands. My wife as well. Yeah. Shout out to my wife and your wife.
And it was awesome to, just be there on the side of the stage. Also the awesome thing of watching your little son dance around and do that, and just making a believer of someone that's like, hardcore has this, I guess it has this label. And one of the things that transpired when we came back, a lot of, our friends went right to my wife and was like, so, how'd you make it? How
was the hardcore show?
Yeah. And she's like, it was fantastic. She's like, there was 30,000 people there. Not one of them was an asshole.
Yeah, it's true.
And we were at a festival the weekend before where it was, same kind of, a little bit different.
What festival? Did you go to Riot Fest?
No, we went to See Here Now in Asbury Park, New Jersey. That was like Billy Idol, Pearl Jam, Avett Brothers. It was just an awesome like laid back thing, but there was a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's crazy because you get that perception.
Well, first of all, can we just go ahead and claim the difference between Southern hospitality compared to New Jersey? Right? So,
yeah, but
no shit on New Jersey, but I think the overwhelming amount of assholes will probably be at the New Jersey Music Festival. Listen, location alone. you have a point, touche. But it was just awesome to see like everyone like all coming together for something, and everybody was there for the same reason, and seeing people get turned on to new music and watching people's eyes open is something amazing. And that's what I took away from like watching your son jump around. And I'm like, this is like, okay, so this is where it starts. So I mean, you have your son there, and he's listening to you, watching you on stage. We all didn't have rock star fucking fathers, so we didn't get to do that. Well, I'm not one either.
So there had to have been a moment in your life when you were a child and you heard music for the first time where you were just heard something that wasn't a sing-along song or Sesame Street or something that changed your mind. Do you remember what that was, or how old you were, or who the artist was?
Yeah. So first, let me unpack this whole question that you just broke down, right? So first, with what you spoke about and your wife felt at Furnace Fest, just to talk about that, because it's important and it was special and it's deserving of being talked about. It was a fest. Did you ever attend the original ones at all?
I did not attend the original ones.
Okay. So, and a lot of people didn't. I mean, they were 20 years ago, right? So a lot of people just weren't going to hardcore festivals 20 years ago.
Well, and also 20 years ago, I didn't have the money to be able to go to a hardcore festival.
100%. Right. Yeah, totally. So, but those festivals back in the day were pretty special if you went to shows in the South, right? Because they were amazing shows. They were amazing festivals. They were always times where everybody from Florida and Georgia and Tennessee and Texas and South Carolina and Arkansas and you know, everywhere around the Southeast that had hardcore scenes, you know, they all just came there and hung out for 3 days, right? And then bands from all over the country would come and the shows would just crush, and you know, it was amazing, right? So there was definitely, you know, Furnace Fest for a lot of people. There was a ton of nostalgia there, right? And so just going through the last, you know, year and a half that we've been in, people just getting there and being there with the nostalgia that they had about it, with the lineup that was happening, with all the other people that were going to be there. Like, it would have been really fucking hard to kill those vibes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, and like your wife, my wife, you know, and people that were there that maybe weren't into just the music or whatever could feel that and see that and sense that everywhere, right? Like, you just felt the love all over the place.
Oh yeah. The minute you walk through the gates, it was,
sure.
It was literally, you felt every weight of the world lifted off your shoulders and you were ready to see something amazing.
And then on top of that, like, the fest killed it, the promoters, the venue killed it, the stages killed it, the bands killed it, like everything about it just went off fucking perfectly. And so, you know, definitely that, like, it's not surprising that you went to a different fest or outdoor show or whatever the week before and had a totally different experience, because it would be very difficult to emulate the experience of Furnace Fest and just everything about it and the build up and all that over again, right? So
yeah.
So that's fucking sweet, because, you know, hardcore, it means different things to a lot of different people, and really depending on where you grew up and how rough you grew up and the type of hardcore you listened to, and, you know, the things that maybe you believed in or didn't believe in, like, all those things affect like your version or your view of what you think kind of the underground punk DIY hardcore music scene should be. And to me, it was always something that, like, it didn't fucking matter who you were, where you came from, what you looked like, what you believed in, like, you could fit in there, you could find a place to belong, you know what I mean? And if you were down with that, right, then that's what it was all fucking about, right? So I think it's cool that, you know, a bunch of old guys 20 plus years later, right, you know, can still go through that, and despite, you know, all the bullshit that's going on, everything else, I mean, that truly can be that type of environment. So, you know, that's sick. And yeah, dude, I mean, it was amazing having my kid there. It was amazing him seeing that. You know, it was, you know, all the dad moments, all the feels, you know, from seeing that afterwards. And I wasn't the only parent there, you know, like, there was, I mean, shout out to the Stretch Armstrong guys. They had, you know, Scott had his family there, kids there, you know, there was a lot of people there that I saw people pushing strollers around, right, with their kids in them. You know, I saw, you know,
kids there too.
Yeah, teenagers. I mean, but my buddy Derek and Joe, a couple guys from Florida, they both had teenagers there that were stage diving and singing along and going, you know, and it was like so many of my friends were in kind of that same situation. And I think the fact that it was Furnace Fest, you know, if it was a different fest, it maybe wouldn't have been that type of fest where people would have literally wanted to bring their families to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, It was that type of environment. So yeah, dude, so it was amazing. And I mean, you know, my kids are maniacs. I got 2 boys, and you know, what's so awesome now is you can literally turn on YouTube and you can put on any concert of any band that you want to, right? And you can put it on your TV. So we'll put on, you know, Turnstile shows, we'll put on Rancid videos, we'll put on the Ramones videos, we'll put on Beastie Boys videos, AC/DC, like, we'll put on all types of rock and stuff, and then just have stage dive time, and me and my kids just jump around and literally do flips onto the couch and stage dive on our couches and stuff and have fun. So, you know, I'm trying to instill that good stuff in them early, you know, but yeah, man. But so as far as me, you know, listening to music when I was a kid, I mean, shoot, I mean, I don't know. I probably, my earliest memories of music were like when I was in, like, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, coming home in the afternoon, putting on MTV and just seeing any videos that played and just trying to figure out who that was or what it was or what, whatever. And I always would watch, I would literally go home and watch for like Poison videos and like Motley Crue video, like any metal or rock videos, I would go home and try to watch that. And so probably that's some of the earliest stuff. And then, geez, when like the Nirvana Nevermind album came out and the Metallica Black album had come out, right around that time as well. I mean, those were two of like the biggest rock albums in the world and of history, right?
Yeah,
and so when you're in like fifth grade and you're just like looking for that, like what can I get my hands on that like is awesome and heavy and crazy and not like anything you've ever, and like you get those two albums basically like back to back. It was like those are probably like the game changers, right? And then probably I feel like right around that time, somebody showed me Ice-T, like the body count, the tape, right? With the crazy graphics in there, right? And just songs and lyric stuff that like, I was like, what in the fuck are they even I'm in suburban Atlanta, Georgia. I'm like, what is this? What the fuck are they even talking about? And then it was not long after that, it was like, the Rage Against the Machine, their first full length with, the guy with lighting himself on fire in the middle of whatever monk. The square, the monk, and just seeing that, it's like, and then you listen to and you hear like the fucking anger and which was different, so it was it was like that time. I mean, dating back when I was in like elementary school and middle school, kind of first discovering that stuff. And then, and then watching Headbangers Ball, that was something. I mean, shit, I remember seeing videos on Headbangers Ball back in the day in the 90s. And it was like, opens your eyes to Slayer and to all these other bands. And, I remember seeing, I think a Cannibal Corpse video or something when I, and like,
MTV had two awesome shows that was always on at like 1 o'clock in the morning that would piss me off, because Headbangers Ball and then they had 120 minutes. Those were like the two greatest fucking shows, but you always had to wait.
Great rock shows.
Yeah. And I was like, so I got to deal with Madonna during the day and I got to wait till 1 o'clock in the morning to see what I want to see and what's new, because that was the only way to find new music.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that, obviously this, predates the internet, predates Spotify and YouTube and, all the ways. I mean, music is so accessible these days. It's crazy. Right. And back in those days, it was literally like trying to catch a song at a right time on the radio or catch a video at a time on MTV when you could see it, or looking up in magazines, like I would look in like the t-shirt sections in magazines and just be like, oh, Megadeth, let's go find that CD, so it was crazy back in the day. But it was probably that stuff. Probably the album that changed everything for me, honestly, was probably Pantera Vulgar Display of Power. When I heard that album, it was like that took things to just a whole nother level for anything I wanted to listen to. That became like the pinnacle of music for me. And still is probably one of my favorite albums, of all time, that comes from, they're obviously a big American metal band, but they're the roots of that band and hardcore and in metal and stoner metal and just stuff that all those dudes have done, like that was a pinnacle. So that was probably the biggest game changer. When that album came out, it was like, this is it now. This is it.
Well, it's hard to deny Anselmo, and especially the fact that the reason why Pantera is what it is because of him. And considering, you go back to the history of Pantera, they were a glam band when they started. And, Anselmo came in later on and became the singer and said, well, you're all very talented and you have the makings of something. And then Pantera became Pantera.
Yeah, he definitely influenced that for sure. But I mean, fuck, Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell are, two of the greatest drummer and greatest guitar player of all time, as far as I'm concerned. So, either way, but yeah, man, and being young, I mean, Atlanta, I lived in a great city that got a lot of great concerts and a lot of great shows. And it was cool because, when I would get old enough to be able to go places and go see shows, it's like, you know, I saw Pantera and Biohazard open and fucking Neurosis. And like, you know, then you start to see these bands play with other cool bands, and that, you know, and it's just a gateway into other worlds. You know what I mean?
Oh, so, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
Do you remember the first time you found something that like none of your friends had heard before, and you got to open their eyes to it and kind of became like your signature find for somebody?
I don't know. Shit. I don't know, man. I don't know that there was ever a time I was the first one that found out about anything. I mean, you know, there was always somebody that would, you know, like you know, I mean, just back in the day, you didn't find out about shit unless somebody bestowed that knowledge upon you to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like, it just, because it was just so different trying to find music and find things, you know? And so you would do digging and you'd uncover and you'd discover and you do that stuff. But, you know, you would just search and search and search. And I don't know, you know, I don't know if there was ever a first anything that, you know, I would say I found for anybody, but you know, I mean, there was always awesome bands. I mean, the cool thing is I did a lot of shows back in the day. And so a lot of bands that would be in one band would then do a new band, and then they'd reach out to me and be like, yo, can you do a show for my new band? Right. So I remember doing a show for Most Precious Blood after Indecision broke up, and we did a show for Most Precious Blood in Atlanta Under the Couch. And I think it was Most Precious Blood. I want to say Stretch Armstrong played. It was, I think, Most Precious Blood. They played like a New York show. They did a demo tape. They put a New York show, and then they drove down to Atlanta and they played an Atlanta show. And it was like their second show. And that was pretty awesome. You know, I remember like I did shows for like the dudes in Comeback Kid, and I remember Andrew from Comeback Kid when he was in Figure 4 and they were on tour with Seven Angels, Seven Plagues. I did a show for those dudes, and he played me like, he's like, dude, this is my new band Comeback Kid. You got to check this demo out, right? Like, you know, and would have played the first 6 songs that they demoed or whatever, which became like that first record, which became like a huge legendary, you know, hardcore punk album, right? And you know, so it was like cool shit like that. But, you know, at the time it was like they were just friends, you know, they were just like awesome people. And you're like, sick, dude. Well, whatever I can do to help you, you know, like I'd love to do a show. I'd love to help get your shit. I love your shit, you know, like, so it was never like, oh, found this first, or, you know, it was just like, you know, you'd find awesome stuff, and it would be people that you thought were awesome, and you just would want to pump that shit out because, you know, you just wanted to see it yourself, you know?
Now, so we're going to have a full circle moment at the end of the show with Most Precious Blood. So everybody, right. That's the teaser.
Love that band. Shout out to Most Precious Blood.
Yeah. When in your life did music like take a hold of you where it was something that you wanted to be a part of, and how did it start?
I mean, that was probably, you know, like in my late teens and early 20s, you know, like I would do, like when I was in high school, I basically got, I found out there was like a student fund at my high school, right? With like a couple $100 a month for like student activities. So I basically got them to give us the money for like a few months in a row and let us invite bands to play for free, like in our gym. Right. And so that was kind of the first time I got like a couple ska bands and like, you know, like, I don't know. I don't even remember. Right. I think, yeah, it was like a couple ska bands and maybe like a local screamo type band. Right. And so it was like the first time that I like did a show, and then I moved to Nashville and started doing shows there. And then between there and Atlanta, I would do shows. And after a while, you know, it kind of was like, okay, this is just what I love. This is what I want to do. I just want to be involved in this. Right. And so, you know, doing shows and started playing music, playing in a band. And again, back in the day, it was like, the way you got your music out is you packed in a van, you went and fucking played. That's what we thought, you know, we didn't know any better. So we would just go play anywhere and everywhere. Right. And too much, you know, people would just get tired of seeing us coming around, but we just didn't know any better. We were like, let's just go play shows. That's, you know, it's what you do. And like, we got nothing going on at home, so we'd rather just pack up in a van and go hang out with friends in all these different cities. And you know what I mean? So, so it was like, it was like that time, and then that was when I was probably the most heavily involved, like in music in my late teens and all through my 20s, pretty much up until about my 30s when, I ended up just, stopping doing shows and kind of just, got a normal job and stopped losing money on like a Tuesday night at a hardcore show, So, but that was it. I mean, that was, and that's the time. It's like when you're young, we joke about it, like touring and living on like $5 a day per diems, like think about that. And, just being back in the day when you're young, you're broke, you don't have any responsibilities. You can just do it. You can just have fun and travel and just fucking, go do it. Some people go to college. Some people go different routes. Some people just start a band and pack up and tell their friends they want to go fucking go on tour and you guys want to go too. And everybody's like, fuck yeah. And then that's how you spend 5 or 6 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how it was. So that was definitely the time. And it was a hell of a time. It was fun.
How did you figure out how to, get bands to come play shows and because it's not something somebody just picks up and says, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, that's crazy that you just found out there was money and you're putting shows together. I mean, how did you figure that out?
So I'm a firm believer in this statement in life. Okay. And the statement is, you don't get what you don't ask for. Right. So like, the worst somebody's going to say is no. You don't get what you don't ask for. So I would just literally, I would literally write bands like handwritten letters back in the day and be like, if you ever want to come to Atlanta, here's my phone number, call me, my house line, right? Here's my number, call me. I'll set up a show for you. Here's my address, send me a letter back, send me a demo, send me some CDs. I'll pass them out to friends, so you just like reached out to people. And I mean, at my school, I just kind of found that out and was like, well, hey, what is that money used for? Well, student events. Well, can I do a concert? And I went to like a small Christian school. So it was kind of like weird. They're like, I don't know, and so I just asked, you talk your way into it, and then it was like, you go to hardcore shows and I mean, it's like you're the same age as everybody. Everybody's young. Everybody's fucking stupid. Nobody knows anything. It's like, there's like a few people that know the bands and know a venue well enough and can hold a stack of $5 bills and count it out at the end of the night. So it's like, well, fuck, I could do that. Like there's 200 people here. I could certainly do this and pay everybody, it's like, and then you just try it and you just fucking, you ask somebody if they want to play and somebody will eventually say yes. And then you just do it, I don't know. I was just a fan of bands. So I just wanted to see bands play. So it was like, shit, I want to see this band. Why not try to book them? Why not try to do a show for them?
Well, kudos to you for, being at that age too, when sometimes you're afraid to get a no, but you weren't afraid. So you asked. That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. And then fast forward, the last show I did, I think was 2000 maybe 7-ish, I think. And it was a Gorilla Biscuit show. It was in Atlanta. Fast forward to the Thursday before Furnace Fest. And I did a show in Nashville for Terror, Comeback Kid, Love is Red, Drain, One Step Closer, Dare, With Honor, Mutually Assured Destruction. It was a huge show. And it was my first show in like 15 years. It was nuts. It was, there was like 800 people showed up. Like it was crazy. It was fun. It was basically like mini Furnace Fest. So it was amazing. And it was sick. 15 years later, it was like, put this huge thing on and, it just fucking happened. It went off. Everybody had a great time. Bands were stoked. Kids were stoked, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So it was cool. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gorilla Biscuits. I'm literally staring at the Gorilla Biscuits action figure that Reaction made.
Yeah, tight.
So you're putting on shows, but what was your first live show you ever saw?
My first live musical experience was the Beach Boys at Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, after a Braves game.
Wow.
One summertime. Shout out the Beach Boys.
Listen, you just named my favorite band. That's my first musical experience. Is my first thing I ever heard that I loved was the Beach Boys.
Was it after a Braves game at Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta?
It was not. It was in the back of a 78 Oldsmobile on the Garden State Parkway playing on CBS 101.1 FM with Cousin Brucey announcing them. And I was like 6 years old or something. And I was like, this is awesome.
That's tight. No, it was, it was like in Atlanta every summer, the Braves would have like the Beach Boys Day, and so it was like pack up, go down to the stadium, go to the Braves game, Beach Boys come out afterwards, so that was like the first, but that was, God, I was probably 5 years old when that happened, but
that's all right.
My first.
That's your first, man. You're good.
Yeah, that was it.
Mine was Kenny Rogers. So like we're in the same boat, man.
Well, your first, of course. Somebody could bullshit you and be like, my first concert was a Cro-Mags. Be like, fuck you. Your parents took you to something when you were like 4. Don't lie about it. You know what I mean? Like,
we don't need cool answers. Like, you don't have to give me the cool answers. We all know.
Everybody probably has a cool show registry point where it was like, that was the first cool one I entered into. But yeah.
So do you have, let's go to there then. Like, what was your first cool show registry then? Like, what were you like,
I already said it. Pantera, Biohazard, Neurosis. Okay. Yeah. So that was, easy. Okay. Yeah. I was 14 or 15 and my mom took me, my buddy Blair, shout out to my cousin Andrew, dropped us off at this venue, International Ballroom in Atlanta, crazy fucking venue. That was probably the first one that was like, whoa, like this is a show of like a band I fucking love. This is amazing. I'd never heard Neurosis before. That was incredible. Never heard I knew Biohazard. I knew Tales from the Hard Side because Phil Anselmo sung on that song. So I knew one song by Biohazard, but then getting to see them, it's like my first experience in New York hardcore. From there, that was like the open to Sick of It All, to Madball, to like, New York hardcore in general, so that was definitely the first one that I was like, this is it, dude. This is a game changer.
Yeah, and that's that snowball effect, like where you just start diving into everything else. And when it came to hardcore, I was like 12 years old. My mother had forged working papers for me to work at a job and get paid, and I was washing dishes at Salvation Army. And this kid I was working with, older, I think he was like 17, said, "Hey, what kind of music you like?" I was like, I just anything, man. I listen to anything. And he literally hands me, still to this day, it's probably like my favorite metal album of all time. He hands me Sepultura's Arise.
Sure.
Literally changed my fucking life. And was like, what? Wait a minute. What is this stuff? I'm like, I don't even know what this is. And I don't know why I feel this way about it, but like, I need more. And then he next day, he makes me a tape of Suicidal, back in the day of tapes, makes me a tape Suicidal Tendencies. And then I was just like, wow. Then it was on to punk and metal. And I was just like, yes, I think I found my way in life.
And everybody has that. Like, there's always somebody that, like your older brother or your cousin or like the dude you worked with washing dishes at Salvation Army. You know what I mean? Or like, and there's always like everybody's got that person that opens the door to you. And until then, you're just like a dummy and you just only know like what's out there. You know what I mean? Like you can find the things you can find until there's always that like, like here it is. This is stop being an idiot. Listen to this music. Like
well, that's my thing too. I was very lucky. Like I always consider and tell people, like, I think I have the luckiest like musical path in my life because I had, my grandparents who would listen to jazz when I'd, stay weekends over at their house, and they'd listen to jazz and they'd dance at night. And so I got that inflection. Then my parents were doo-wop, and my dad liked, folk music. And then my brother's 10 years older than me. So like for me, like he he's listening to AC/DC. I don't know what AC/DC is, Led Zeppelin, all, Aerosmith. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was too young, but I still got to hear it and learn about it. My sister's 4 years older than me, and she listened to her girl music. So I love The Cure and Psychedelic Furs and like all that new wave stuff. And then I got met people and got to find my own way into music, and it brought me to me wanting to introduce people to music, be like, hey man, listen to this, have you heard of this band, listen to it, because it's so fucking awesome when you can open up someone's eyes to something. It's one of my greatest joys in life, is to hand somebody something musically and say, hey, check this out, and then say, this is fucking amazing. And it's kind of like why we're doing this show too, when we're called Hidden Tracks, because I want people to hear more music than what they know about. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that was the exact reason that that was one of the main reasons that I would always do shows, right? And, when I lived in Nashville in the early 2000s, Nashville had some crust punk. They had a punk scene. They really had no hardcore scene. There were not a lot of hardcore bands. Hardcore bands didn't really go through there, and so it was something that it was like, I not only want to listen to this, but then bands started coming through, and it's like, I want other people to listen to these bands because they're so fucking good, right? So then it was like, that became a purpose behind it, right? Is because, when something is out there that affects you, that's personal to you, that's exciting, like music that draws all types of emotions, that, can be such an amazing experience live, right? Which so much back in the day was just about the live experience and being at shows, right? When those things can have such a great effect, it's like, you want other people to know about that shit. And if you don't, it's kind of selfish, I feel like, it's like, and that's what these bands are out there doing it for. That's why they're driving, town to town in vans. That's why they're out there doing it themselves. And it's like, you have a responsibility to try to hype them up and get as many people there as you can and as many people into it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but, it was, I agree, dude. I think that's awesome. And that's how music exists. So it's like, you need that shit, like I said, everybody's got that person. And like, before that, we were all fucking dumb. We all listen to dumb shit. We all listen to dorky ass music that we can make fun of. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. That's just how it was,
Yeah. Well, you're kind of, your only way to get music a lot of times back in that day was either it was on the radio or it was on MTV. And usually it was one and the same because it was on MTV, right, was on the radio. So you're kind of being told what to listen to a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you brought up when you wanted to be in a band and get into doing it yourself besides just putting on shows. What was that progression like for you to like, was it, I'm just going to start a band, or I'm going to meet up with somebody who needs someone and see if I can do it? Or how did that work for you?
Well, I got asked to be in Love Is Red because they had been a band. They had put out a full length and they had played Nashville, and I'd put them on Nashville shows, and their singer ended up quitting, and so they just needed a singer. And so I had known them. I knew who they were. We were friends. I put them on shows. And so they just asked me, to join. And so, I definitely was excited about it. I liked being in bands. I played in bands in high school, and, I played guitar and sang. And so, yeah, it was all a part of it. It was like, that's just, like when you were involved, when you wanted to start bands, you wanted to do shows, you wanted to do distros, like that's just what you did, especially in hardcore, and especially in that time in the late 90s and early 2000s. And, yeah, so they had asked me, and it worked out, and, we had a lot of fun with it, and we played a lot of awesome shows, and, it wasn't ever anything like, this is what we are going to do forever. We were just young and dumb and didn't know any better and just wanted to go hang out with our friends every day, and like, that was the way. So yeah, that was it.
Do you remember the name? So you bring up high school and being in bands. Do you remember the name of your very first band?
Yeah, first band was, let's see, first band was 3 Alarm Fire.
Not bad for a first band name.
Shout outs to Scott and Hudson and Lauren from 3 Alarm Fire. we put out a demo tape. We played like at schools and like our friends' houses, and like there was a group of like 15 people that would just hang out at our buddy's house every like Friday night, you know, and in his basement we'd all play music there and shit. And it was, I remember mailing a demo tape to Fat Records, and I remember getting a response. I mailed demo tapes to a bunch of labels, and I remember getting a letter in the mail from Fat Mike from Fat Records, and like I literally remember checking the mail and my mom got the mail and was like, "Hey, you have a letter." And I was like, and I was like, okay, cool. Who's it from? She's like, Fat. And I was like, you know, like it was like, oh my God, you know, like this is it. And like, I was like, there's a response. Like somebody responded. It's fucking Fat Records. Holy shit, you know. So we're like flipping out. And I remember opening it, and it was like this form checklist. It was like these categories, right? And it was like. Your band is fucking terrible. Throw your instruments away and go join the army was like one option, you know, or something like that, right? And the next one was like, you're not the worst band in the world, but you probably shouldn't continue to make music. Maybe go try to play in like a country band or something, like, you know, it was like something. And then it was like, your band's pretty good. Keep working on it. Try to play some shows and give us a call in a year or two, right? And then it was like, your band is fucking good. We're going to put your record out, you know, blah, 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 right? So it was like these tiers. And I remember they checked the one that was like, your band's pretty good. Keep playing shows. And we were like, holy shit, Fat Mike thinks our band is pretty good, you know, like being like, this is amazing. But it was really fun, you know, of course, like, I mean, we were in high school, and then I think like by summertime we broke up, you know, so it was like, whatever, but you know,
awesome.
But yeah, I totally remember. And it was funny. I remember that. And you know, just getting a letter back, you know, when you're like 16 years old and you get a letter back from like a huge punk label that has like some of your favorite bands, you know, and seeing it, it's like, whoa, you know. And again, back in the day, literally like a letter that was checked off and signed by Fat Mike, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of people these days, which I'll try to say to people out there listening, is the power of a letter. No one will ever understand what it's like.
Totally.
I mean, it was, I still have my, you know, a stack of letters that when I was in the military and I was in Kuwait, and when you'd get a letter, it was like written 3 weeks ago, but I still have those letters because the power of that letter in that time was this is the great. Somebody could have just wrote "fuck you" inside of it, and I still would have been fine because I got to open something.
Totally. I don't have any. I'm not a collector person, and there's definitely things that I'm like, damn, I wish I had that thing still, you know. But I was talking about this the other day. I remember I got a letter from Toby from H2O one time. It was probably not far. It was probably around the same time. And it was funny because it was like a handwritten letter back, you know, and it was like, I remember getting it and being like, holy shit, it's basically like we talked on the phone. We're basically friends now, you know, like, you know.
Yeah. But, and for you to, you know, I mean, that's, you know, Sick of It All to H2O, you know, that's awesome. Like,
yeah, that was fun. We ended up, Love Is Red ended up touring with Sick of It All a bunch, like later on, which was pretty incredible. We toured with Agnostic Front, which was pretty incredible. We basically broke up because Agnostic Front invited us to Europe, and our bass player didn't want to go, and we were fighting because we were on tour and we couldn't pull it together in a week to go on tour with Agnostic Front in Europe, and basically all told each other to go fuck ourselves and broke up. Yeah, so shout out to Agnostic Front.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, which was crazy, but yeah, it was, you know, it was cool. It was different times back in the day. I mean, it's still, you know, the bands are still awesome these days, and, you know, bands are still cool as shit. And, you know, it's just different times with communication and the way that you do things now and the accessibility. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And not that it makes it any more or less special, because at the end of the day, like, however you get turned on to good music in whatever form is awesome, right?
Absolutely.
You know, but you know, we're older now, so we can always talk about the nostalgia thing.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
living in nostalgia is fantastic, but I also love finding new stuff that like just came out that kids are 17 and they're putting out something fucking amazing. You're just like, yes. So it's
And
still going to be around.
There's so much fucking good. There's so much good music right now. There's so much good hardcore right now. There's so much good punk right now. There's so much good metal right now. Like, there is so much good music out there with young bands that are absolutely killing it. It's a good time, especially if you listen. I believe your podcast branches out in a lot of different genres, and I don't know how far it goes, you know, but if you listen to, you know, to metal, to thrash, to hardcore, to punk, if you listen to anything in any of those subgenres, like, right now is one of the most abundant times for it. Like, there, you know, and especially with bands that kill it on a big level, like, to have bands that are getting to levels like some of these bands are, that are still doing sick fucking hardcore shows. It's pretty awesome. It's a good time to like new music right now, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing for me, and you know, we do branch out to a lot of levels. We've had country artists, we've had hip hop artists, we've had emo, punk. We don't discriminate here, because for me, a good song's a good fucking song. And it doesn't, you know, you don't have to fall into that, hey dude, you're not punk enough, you're a poser. No, fuck that. A good song's a good song.
Yeah.
And people who are talented, and that's the end goal. Agreed. Is to just bring the talent to the forefront and get rid of the people who are farting into a microphone and putting it on Spotify and calling it music.
No. And, you know, to quote the famous Airheads, I ain't pit farting on no snare drum. So no, but it's you know, and like, I know you said your parents got you into different stuff. I mean, my mom got me into Motown and stuff like that back in the day. I mean, I lived in Atlanta my whole life, which is, you know, the hip hop capital of the world, you know, rightfully so. And, you know, there's definitely, it's cool because, and then I lived in Nashville. And I mean, even when we were in Nashville before Furnace Fest, it's like, you know, the shit I respect and get into is like the hustle of bands, right? Because again, call me old fashioned or whatever, but again, back in the day, like, if you wanted to get discovered or you wanted to get figured out, maybe not like for big pop shit, but for independent music, for rock, like, you went out there, you hustled, you played clubs, you played shows, you toured, you know, you put it out there.
You had to play 100 shows a year just to hope that one person would see you.
Yeah, or to get 100 people a night to come to you the next year. You know what I mean? Like, or to just build your little following, your little niche. And like, it's cool because in Atlanta, you see that with hip hop, you see that with rap for sure. I mean, you know, depending on the time frames and the eras, I mean, and the age that you are, I mean, it was always like that. Like, even, I mean, back to the late 90s and the early 2000s, like, I worked in clubs in the early 2000s, and you would literally see 2 Chainz come in before anybody knew who the fuck he was, and he would just grab a mic and get the DJ to play a song, and he would rap it to a couple hundred people, hoping that it was like, they would pick it up, right? And it was like, you know, like with you know, and there's so many artists in Atlanta that did that shit, that would go play little clubs, go try to get their records into a strip club DJ that would play it, you know, on like a hot night with a couple hundred people at the strip club, you know, just like literally hustling it just like any other music. And like, Nashville's the same way. We were up there and there's like, you know, country, you know, dudes just playing on a honky tonk bar on Broadway to like the 100 drunk people that walked in there, and they're just, you know what I mean? So it's like, you can just respect that in like whatever genre it is, whether you're playing like warehouses and VFW halls, or like trying to get your music bumped in a club, or, you know, fucking playing a honky tonk bar. It's like, that's how you get great at stuff. Like, nobody's just great right out of the gate. You just go grind it out. You figure out who you are. You develop yourself as an artist. Right. And like, that's the cool thing about music in all genres, right? It's a hustle, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've met someone that was, you know, great the day they woke up and said, I'm going to be a rock star, and it happened the next day. It is the work, it's the hustle, it's the dream, and it's also that perseverance and, you know, saying there's no one here, but I'm still putting on a fucking show. Yeah. And I'm still going to play like there's 1,000 people in the room when there's, you know, one bartender behind the fucking bar. Doesn't matter.
Love is Red played a lot of those shows with like one bartender or like the other bands that were there. We played a festival one time and we played like as doors were opening, but then they delayed doors for like 45 minutes, and that was basically our set time. So we literally played before the doors opened one time.
Nobody was allowed in.
No, literally, yeah. People couldn't even come in and watch us.
It was like you were doing sound check.
Yeah, totally. But that was our set time, and the fucking stage manager was this like grumpy pro rock asshole, and it's like, you gotta be done by, you know, and it's like, damn it.
So this is usually sometimes a hard question for people, but if you meet somebody, a stranger, and you tell them you're in a band and they say what type of band, and you would say, well, here's one song of ours that I'm going to make you listen to that would best describe who we are.
Oh,
do you know what song that you would give somebody that's never heard your band?
Man, I don't even know. Yeah, you know, maybe I would say just So Long on the new EP, on the Darkness is Waiting EP, So Long. That has me, that has the original singer Rob in there. It's fast, it's heavy, it's angry. And yeah, I mean, I would say if you're going to check a song out, then that would be the first one. Go check that one out, see what you think. All
right. So that's what I'll tell people. Here's the
put
song.
It out there.
Yeah, this is what the man who's in it told me to tell you to listen to.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so how about this one? How about this for Q&A? Is there a band that never let you down? That just every time they released something or currently release, the Rolling Stone question would be favorite band. I don't like it to call it that, but is there a band that you have in your life that has just never let you down from everything you've ever done?
Jeez, that's like a hard question. Man, I feel like it has to be a band. Oof. Let's see.
I know it's hard. That's why I removed the favorite band, because I have 180 of them. So you know, sometimes
it's tough because every band has like their throwaway. You know what I mean? Like usually it's later. I'm trying. It's like the never disappoint. Like, that's, you know.
It is tough, and I understand it, because there are, you know, some of my favorite bands where they'll put out something new, but there'll be 3 songs on the album that I'm like, you still got it, but some of the other stuff can go away. But it's still, you didn't let me down because there's still bangers on there. So
how about this? Bands. So I'm in my 40s. Bands that are my age that come from the metal, underground, punk, hardcore scene that at one time were contemporaries playing in houses and kitchens and floors that are now aged and killing it. There's 3 bands that come to mind. Number 1 would be Converge.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 would be Mastodon, and number 3 would be Every Time I Die. So those to me, those bands in this genre, because I'm thinking punk and metal, you know, those are 3 bands. I mean, Every Time I Die, their you know, last few albums have been they're fucking pinnacles, and their new stuff is incredible. Mastodon, their Emperor of Sand, their last album was, I think, probably my favorite of theirs. They put out an EP since then and stuff, but that was their last one. Converge, same thing. All We Love, We Leave Behind, which was, I don't know, like their 8th fucking record or something, was still like unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, those would be in that genre, and I guess the stuff that we're talking about mostly here today.
Yeah, well, listen, it's open to anything, and I think what's really funny is, so you're the second one in the past 3 interviews that we've had, and the other one who said Every Time I Die as well was one of the bands that never let him down. Is not, you know, is
who's that
into hardcore? Dominic from a band called Bad Luck. They're I forget how, I don't want to mess up his own genre labeling, but it's probably pop punk.
Dominic's a smart dude.
Yeah. So
no, it's dude, it's impressive. It's like, because to come from the roots of being a punk, a metal, an indie band, for the most part, like you're a van and trailer band, like you're driving, you're playing mid-level venues. If you're packing them out, you're doing okay, but you're not getting rich. And that, right? Like, that. And some of these bands have broken through into different levels. Mastodon has definitely broken into, like, I think a different category of size because of, they probably draw in the thousands and thousands at this point in time. But again, like, coming from Atlanta, I mean, and playing Hellfest back in the day and Crazy Fest and Furnace Fest. I mean, they were, a small little spastic metal band from Atlanta that, like, weren't really fitting into any genre except like crazy, weird, grungy alt and stoner metal. But it was like, again, they could play a hardcore show at Hatebreed and it was like, you could respect it. It was cool, you know? And like, those bands specifically, like ETID, Converge, these are bands that basically came from that, sleeping on floors, playing on floors, grinding it out as a little DIY as fuck punk or metal or hardcore band, and like 20 years later have morphed themselves and become insanely good musicians and songwriters. And like, it's like, I was talking about this at Furnace Fest, because you see some of these bands and it's like, it doesn't matter what shit you're into. You have to be able to respect people that are doing what they do at the highest fucking level, right? Yeah. So like, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a musician, whether it's, it doesn't matter what it is, but when, for our viewing pleasure, when somebody's talent is on display and you see that they're just fucking killing it, it's respectable. And like, those are a few bands that pop out that it's like, God damn, you just watch them and you're like, like, they're just so fucking good and they just know what they do and they do it so fucking well. And they just keep replicating that in different ways and reinventing things and making their sounds better. And it's just like, yeah, it's impressive to see anybody that can have that type of, Tom Brady's played in the NFL for 20 something fucking years. It's like Converge has been having the most insane pylons for 25 years. It's like literally the same thing. So.
Yeah, and you brought up like a good point. Well, like Mastodon, I mean, watching them progress, and the same thing, like, they can go out and play with Hatebreed, and then 2 years ago they're on tour with Dinosaur Jr. So it's like they can do whatever they want and play with whoever they want, and they just constantly are getting better, and it's like, holy shit.
Well, and honestly, so number one, I think that's a shout out to Atlanta, because Atlanta is such, Atlanta is such a melting pot city in so many ways. The people that live there, most people are not from Georgia. They're not from Atlanta. Most people have moved there from somewhere else, or their parents moved there from somewhere else for better weather, for jobs, for whatever, cheaper housing, right? So Atlanta just in general as a city is such a fucking melting pot. And then musically, it's downtown Atlanta and like the neighborhoods, East Atlanta Village and Little Five Points, and those neighborhoods where like music really thrived for like from like, I mean, the late 90s to now even, right? Like, these neighborhoods are neighborhoods that literally some of the biggest artists in the world came from, right? And not just in metal or in rap. I mean, in indie music, in pop music, like, it's crazy. And what's cool about it is like, because of that melting pot, and because of like, you literally would be at a bar and like Brent from Mastodon would be like smashing beers, and then like Andre 3000 would be like in the other room with like a hoodie up and sunglasses on, like eating a burrito, because it was a vegan bar, it was like, you would get that. And so like, it was cool because like to a lot of those bands, you could just kind of do whatever the fuck you wanted because all your contemporaries were of all these different genres, right? So it was like for bands like Mastodon, I mean, you know, and there were other bands like, you know, like the Black Lips and you know, that was huge in the fucking super indie world, and they would play, you know, shows with huge rappers, you know, like, and kind of like what Turnstile does these days. I know they're Baltimore, DC, but I mean, Turnstile's playing in LA with like A$AP Rocky, you know, but it's because they do really cool shit and they don't really care about the type of music again. So it's like, you know, it was cool. Like Mastodon, I mean, shout out Squaresville. Like that was a house in Atlanta that literally like they played in the kitchen, you know, and like, and then, you know, played every venue in East Atlanta and then Little 5 Points and filmed a music video at the Star Bar and like, you know, and just morphed themselves into this entity, this thing, you know, like Mastodon is like, are they a metal band? Are they a rock band? Are they like just a huge fucking amazing musical thing, you know, thing, right? And it's like, and they can do that, you know, and it's pretty rad. But you know, yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you're great at something. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like the cream's gonna rise to the fucking top. You're gonna see it. Like if you're shitty at something, if you're okay at playing instruments, and if you're, you know, then like you're gonna be fine. But if you're truly great at something, and the key to those bands like Mastodon's had the same members for 20 something years. Imagine doing anything with anybody for 20 something years, right? Like especially playing in a band, touring the world, writing records, playing with the same people. You have to be just 20 years better than you were, you know, and just from the experience to knowing each other, the knowing what you do, the finding yourself, the life experience, all those things, right? So yeah, dude, those are three, and those are three all-time bands for sure. Rancid's another one. I'll throw that one out there. Rancid's last album, Troublemaker, was fucking phenomenal, and those guys are, you know, just killer from early 90s to now. They continue to put out amazing punk albums that cross over genres and, you know, put them up there in the masses too. So that's another band. But
now, talking about stuff like that you listen to, is there anything that musically that you listen to and get a lot of enjoyment out of that someone would be really surprised that you're really into?
I mean, you know, I love rap music, so I listen to all kinds of rap music. I just love Southern hip hop, dude. So fuck, man. I mean, all morning today, I was just driving around listening to 3 6 Mafia. So I love Southern hip hop. I love, let's see, what's some other cheesy ass shit that I like? You know, I Got Two Kids, that BTS song Dynamite last year, dude. I mean, that song, that's a jam song. that's a summer dance like that's a smash song. Same with The Weeknd, that Blinding Lights. I probably had to listen to that song like 14 million times this past year. Those are some bangers, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, you and I are going to differ on hip hop because, you know, I grew up right outside of New York City, so my stuff is the New York City hip hop. So that's stuff that the other night, I forget what it was. Somebody made me turn on like the new Drake song or whatever, and I needed to, for some reason, I was just like, nope, can't do it, and I needed to cleanse my soul. So I was just like, yeah, I need Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. Like this needs to go on right now because I need to cleanse my soul of whatever song you just made me listen to.
Yeah, the new Drake album is not very good. It's
well, how can it be? He drops a new album every other week. So I mean,
yeah, Drake kills it. I went and saw Drake and Migos in Detroit. I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. It was at Little Caesars Arena. It was an amazing show. He fucking killed it. Migos killed it. But you know, Drake gets into that like R&B. I'm really just kind of singing to the ladies at this point in time records, and they just go on for a while. And yeah, but no, dude. I mean, listen, I grew up in Atlanta, so it's like. But again, I was an MTV baby, so. You know, when Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre got popular, you know, when Doggy Style came out and The Chronic, I mean, 1990, 1991, like watching MTV, like you had to know that stuff. Like at the same time, I mean, I remember the Def Jam days. I mean, I saw Beastie Boys play with Rancid opening up. I saw Rage Against the Machine play, and Wu-Tang Clan opened up with when ODB was still alive. Yeah. So like, you know, definitely the New York shit was there for sure. But but nowadays, the South is taking over for sure.
All right, so I want you to picture yourself, because I know it'll be hard, but okay, so you're single your whole life, but this is the way you got to picture it. And a meteor's coming to crash into the earth, and you have 5 minutes, and you have to listen to one song.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you know what song you would pick? Or let's say you're married and you don't have kids, because let's remove the children. So you can be married.
Let's see.
But you have to listen to one song.
God dang, dude.
It's your end of the world song. I know, hard-hitting question. That's all we fucking do.
End of the world song. I don't know. The song that, like, for whatever reason, like, keeps coming to mind is, I just feel like I would listen to Avail. I feel like Avail, if the time was ending and I wanted to, like, ride out in the sunset, it would be Avail. Did you ever listen to Avail? Are you familiar with Avail?
Very, very underrated.
Yeah. So probably it would be, what is it? I think it's the first song on Over the Jam. I think, going over in my head what seems like everything. Remember, I don't know where I'm going, but I don't think that I care. I think that would probably be, did I trip myself up again? I would just listen to that while like a meteor blew me out of the fucking existence.
Awesome. I love that it just kept coming back to your head, because then that's the song.
Like, yeah, I'm like, God, what would be? And it was like that song just started playing in my head. It's like, all right, I guess that would be, yeah. Shout out to Avail, one of the greatest punk bands of all time.
Yeah,
and shout outs again. They were, shout outs to the South. They were a Southern punk band. They're from Richmond, Virginia, and it was that was, again, kind of tying it back to Furnace Fest. It's like, when you grew up in a certain area of the country that was kind of didn't have your New York punk scene, your LA punk scene with your DC shit, like. When you grew up in the South, it was kind of different, and they embraced it and were proud of it, and fought Nazis and fucking partied and threw amazing shows and toured the world, and yeah, so definitely I think Avail. If the world was ending and I had one song to cry it out and watch a meteor fucking smash into me and do some Guardians of the Galaxy type, existence is over type shit, then that would be it. That would be on my tape that I would take if I was Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy. It would be Avail Over the James.
Awesome. That's a great idea to make our own Leave the World. Everybody has a desert island, but that's different. Like Leave the World, because you're going to be traveling. So, when you're on a desert island, you need something different than when you're traveling around the universe.
If you were Chris Pratt and you were in Guardians of the Galaxy and you had a tape that your dead mother had given to you that you were going to listen to over and over again.
Yeah, if I was Chris Pratt, we wouldn't have each other's numbers in our phones. So
yeah. Oh, thanks, asshole. No. So it's like that. You're that kind of famous person, huh? I get it. I see how it is.
It's a great line I stole from my friend musician. He's like, dude, if I was fucking pop, you wouldn't have my phone.
Yeah. I'd be like, well, fuck you then. Yeah. I'm not going to get burritos with you tomorrow, asshole.
All right. So end of the world. So we'll come into the end of the show. And I want to first off say thank you so much for being here before we get into our last segment, before we go, because this has been fucking cool as shit for me.
What's the last, are you telling me the Most Precious Blood story, or what's the deal? Is that the last segment?
So last segment. So this is our weekly threes. It's when we get 3 things out that we're currently listening to that we would want other people to listen to right now.
Interesting.
So 3 things that you're listening to. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be new, it could be old. It doesn't matter. Just 3 things you're listening to that you would tell somebody to go out and listen to.
Let's see here. Slowly pulling up my Spotify.
That's what everybody does.
Let's see.
I mean, I can go first if you want, because mine
go first. Let me hear yours.
All right. So mine for this week is my first, in no particular order, but 3 things that I've been listening to all week. Band called Life in Your Way, an album called Kingdoms, Connecticut post-emo metalcore band. Fucking great album.
Supposed to play Furnace Fest. They unfortunately were not able to play.
Fact. Number 2. Most Precious Blood, Do Not Resuscitate. I could not, for some reason. It was one of those things where I just kept listening to it over and over again, to the point where I just said stop. Like, I was like, what are you doing? Go on to something else. But it was just one of those things that when it come back around, very much, that's my Most Precious Blood. You mentioned them. They were on my 3s. They're written down. They've been here since I was ready to have you on today. And
love
it. last but not least, because it was such an amazing moment watching them perform that I could not dive deeply into not turning it off, is Be Well, The Weight and the Cost. It's just something that changed in me when I heard the album, last year, and then I got to see Brian perform, and I was just like, fuck, this is amazing. So
yeah, dude, they're an incredible band. Obviously have fairly legendary dudes in the band. I mean, I don't think the members of that band are pretty fucking legendary dudes in different bands that are all pretty epic. And they, it's cool because I mean that they make good melodic hardcore, passionate hardcore. They sound awesome. They sounded awesome at Furnace Fest. They played right before Love Is Red. So they did a sick 7 seconds cover. Shout outs to Be Well. I definitely want to stay young until I die. And so, they're awesome.
They're literally playing in New Jersey tomorrow and in New York on Friday and Saturday, with opening for H2O.
Oh, okay. Well, and they're doing some pretty rad shows. They're doing a Strike Anywhere tour, I think, with Comeback Kid and Strike Anywhere as well. So they're doing some awesome stuff. I think they're all touring down to that the fest or whatever down in Gainesville. Dude, and that's again, not to go off on another tangent here, because I know we're in our last set and you're probably ready to cut me off. Your Apple's probably like, you only have a certain amount of time, so tell this guy to shut up. But it's cool because those are all just dudes that have done so much as far as hardcore, as far as playing in bands, as far as making music and producing music. It's pretty unbelievable, and it's amazing to see those dudes still as passionate, still as enthusiastic, that still give as much of a fuck as they do, because it's that's what this shit was always about. And the fact that you have people like that are still living, breathing, reinventing themselves, it's pretty fucking amazing. And so, shout outs Be Well. That band's sick.
Fact. You just stated a fact.
Yeah. All right, my turn. My 3s.
Your turn, man.
All right. So, first one is Angel Dust. Members of Turnstile, members of Trapped Under Ice. They have quite a few new singles out. I don't know if if their new album is fully out yet, or if they have just released multiple new singles for their upcoming album. But Angel Dust, if you like really catchy dance pop music, they have morphed into that type of band, and it has taken them an album or two to kind of morph from being a fast hardcore band into being a pop dance band, which I know sounds really fucking strange, and there was some stumbling blocks getting here, but their new songs are pretty goddamn catchy. So, and I've been jamming those. So I would say Angel Dust, 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 $T. So that would be the first one. Do you listen to Angel Dust? Have you listened to that band at all?
No, I have not. So it is now on my list.
Go fire up their new songs, Truck Songs, and then go listen to their album Toxic Boombox, which is incredible start to finish, and you'll kind of see their difference in progression. The stuff in between that is neither here nor there, but yeah, go listen to those. And then the stuff before Rock the Fuck On Forever, or no, excuse me, Toxic Boombox is a song. The album Rock the Fuck On Forever, you should go listen to that, listen to the new songs, Truck Songs. So shout out to Angel Dust, shout out Every Time I Die. Their new songs are killing it. They have a new record, Radical, coming out on Epitaph, and yeah, their new songs, Planet Shit, Postmortem. They've put like 5 bangers out on this record, so I am definitely listening to those. And then lastly, I would say Snapcase, Designs for Automation. So shout out early 2000s, late 90s Victory Records when Snapcase ruled the world. Yeah, and their album Design for Automation, I think it came out in like 2000. I don't know, just an album I revisited recently. If you like Turnstile, if you're into that band these days, you listen to this album and you could say that any of the songs on Snapcase Design for Automation could also be Turnstile jams. The vocals were so unique. Snapcase, Daryl was sick, higher vocals. They were heavy, but not like chug heavy, just like their tones and their sound, and also like ridiculously catchy. So yeah, and if you want a song, go listen to Ambition Now on Designs for Automation, Snapcase. That would be my number 3.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great 3. So I want to give you this time right now, Hunter, to tell everyone on the show and whoever's listening to how to find your stuff, how to find everything that Love is Red is doing, how to find anything that you're doing to promote shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not doing shit. So I did one show and that was Love is Red. You can go to the Love is Red Bandcamp, which is just bandcamp.loveisred.com, I believe. And the new EP that we did, we pressed vinyl. We put the record out ourselves, and so we have vinyl that has our 2004 full length, The Hardest Fight, on one side, and our new EP, Darkness is Waiting, on the other. And then we have T-shirts. We basically sold out of all of our merch at Furnace Fest, but we have basically like a pre-order run. So we opened our store back up. So we're going to do represses on like our shirts, our hoodies. And then we have the record. We have a couple different colors, and we don't have a lot of them left. So we didn't print very many of them. So if you're into vinyl, this one's pretty sick. The layout's pretty amazing. And it has our 2004 full length and our 2020 EP on front and back. So go to loveisred.bandcamp.com and pick it up, or just download it and stream it and listen to it and whatever you want to do.
Well, and that's it, people. You know what we try to do here? We try to help out bands, and you can help out by buying their merch. So please go out and do it. That's the best way you can support, buy their music, buy their merch, and help them get paid. That's
it. Do it. Go buy up all of our records. So 10 years from now, when we play our next show, I don't have them all in my garage.
But again, Hunter, this has been fucking awesome for me. I enjoyed continuing our conversation. I hope to continue it again at some point down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
Do this again. And this has been awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Hope it's not another 10 years before I see you, but
absolutely, dude.
This has been absolutely my pleasure to have you here. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
For all the listeners out there, you know what you got to do next. You go out, listen to Love is Red, and have a great fucking time. Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.